Hello, Donald, my dear.
Recording in progress.
How nice to see you. We have a request from Hollyhock to increase. Do we wish to increase from 25 to 30 people? We're full for September. So let's chat. Well, it's a beautiful day here in Lake Wobegon. No, that's not right. It's a beautiful day here in Portland, Oregon. Sun streaming into the backyard. Have more energy today. I don't know. COVID waning, perhaps. Yesterday afternoon, it kind of disappeared again. All the energy. So, I have a poem, and my left hand now. The carpal tunnel surgery is such that I have toughened up my fingers a little bit, and I can play my guitar again. There's occasional twinges of sharp pain from the surgery, but not bad. So I want to encourage you to join in this cute little song about something really important. I take refuge in the Buddha, the one who shows me the way in this life. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. I take refuge in the Dharma, the way of understanding and love. Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya, Namo Dharmaya. I take refuge in the Sangha, the community of mindful harmony. Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya, Namo Sangaya. Clank, bang, crash. Quite a long time ago, 15 or 20 years, maybe more. Josh, maybe it's way more than that even. I went a couple of times, at least, to Mendocino to be with Robert Bly and Michael Mead and James Hillman and 120 other men. It was part of my reclamation of my identity, one of my identities. Anyway, I became very fond of Robert Bly's poetry. This is a nice one for this morning, I think. Things to think. Think in ways you've never thought before. If the phone rings, think of it as carrying a message larger than anything you've ever heard, vaster than 100 lines of Yeats. He loved Yeats. Think that someone may bring a bear to your door, may be wounded and deranged, or think that a moose has risen out of the lake and he's carrying on his antlers a child of your own whom you've never seen. When someone knocks on the door, think that they're about to give you something large, tell you you're forgiven, or that it's not necessary to work all the time, or that it's been decided that if you lie down, no one will die. Think in ways you've never thought before. If the phone rings, think of it as carrying a message larger than anything you've ever heard, vaster than 100 lines of Yeats. Think that someone may bring a bear to your door, maybe wounded and deranged, or think that a moose has risen out of the lake and he's carrying on his antlers a child of your own whom you've never seen. When someone knocks on the door, think that they're about to give you something large, tell you you're forgiven, or that it's not necessary to work all the time, or that it's been decided that if you lie down, no one will die. Or maybe that it's okay to take 45 minutes or an hour or two every day to just sit and do nothing. So let's do that. Coming to comfortably upright. Comfortably upright. The meditator relinquishes covetousness and grief concerning the world. They let go of the past and future. And what is revealed? There's just now. There is this moment of aliveness in the body. It's breathing. And each breath has a beginning. We've heard that 1,000 times, haven't we? Maybe more. Each breath begins. And it's possible for this mystery of consciousness to be present. Right here with this breath. And let's allow the concept breath to fall away. It's just a word. There is, however, an experience, actual sensations. And And so let us abide in those sensations as the breath comes to fullness and declines. And there are, of course, the various activities of mind, the five hindrances, the moods, the liking and disliking, pushing none of it away and clinging to none of it, inhabiting now. Perhaps we might remind ourselves of the enlightenment factors. Probably pretty familiar with the hindrances of lust and hate, desire and disliking, pushing away, restlessness, agitation, worry, and sloth and torpor and doubt. Good to know them well. But also, what is it that we're cultivating? Heart-mind fullness. The mystery of being awake to what is. Curiosity. What is happening? We can get very caught in, I want this meditation to be this way or that way. But how is it actually? Persistence, a sort of effort. The effortless effort of staying present. The effort to come and actually practice together. And while here, to stay with the intention of being present. Concentration. How concentrated is the mind? Maybe it's not concentrated at all. Or maybe it's laser-like. With each breath arising into a zone of absolute presence. And how about tranquility? Is this a moment of ease and simplicity and tranquil nature? And how about equanimity? How accepting is this mind moment? No matter what's happening. And delight or joy or piti. Is there some pleasure arising from within? The pleasure of a mind which is a little tamer than it once was. A mind that can take delight in the simplicity of in-breathing and out-breathing. And what about kindness? Is the attitude toward oneself and this moment one of kindness? The kindness of, I love you exactly as you are. You don't have to perform in some way. And there's lots of dukkha in life. There's the dukkha of the hindrances. There's the dukkha of physical pain. There's the dukkha of loss. Is there compassion? Compassion is that willingness and ability to be present, to simply hold the moment. to sit like a rock. One finds in nature, in different places where the glaciers were, sometimes rather large rocks. They get carried maybe hundreds of miles by the glacier, and then the glacier melted and left them. And there they sit to this day. Similarly, the seeds of the great forest trees, the Douglas firs, and all those giants, in fact, all the trees, their seed lands and then it takes root. There's no impulse to be somewhere else. And so we sit like rocks or great trees, and we notice the impulses to move, to scratch, to comfort ourselves somehow through movement. And it's not through rigidity, it's through simplicity and gravity. We just sit. Restlessness may arise. And because of the intention to sit like a rock, then all the impulses become quite visible. When we take root as awareness meeting the breath, the wanderings of the mind become more obvious. When some experience comes along that's pleasant or unpleasant, it becomes really obvious. Wanting more of this or less of that. And so here we sit. Fine Dharma friends gathering together, supporting one another in going into the present moment. This one. So we can attend carefully to the breath, the sensations of breathing. We can notice the particulars of thought. And we can notice the general tone or tendency of mind at this moment. Is this a mind that's at ease, here resting in the present? Or is it somehow tight or anxious, frightened, worried? Is it a mind that really tends toward love and compassion? Or is it preoccupied somehow? Is there maybe some flavor of self-criticism or self-hatred even? Is it a mind that is at ease now, or is it actually in the future worrying about something? And it's not that any of these are better than the others, they're just different flavors that we experience. And so now please let us acknowledge the fact of the body in its entirety, its feet, its legs, all the life of the pelvis, the organs cradled in the pelvis, the fingers and thumbs and hands, the arms and shoulders, the face, the eyes, the back, the whole thing. It's nothing but life. And acknowledging there's both the life and there's something that knows the life. So here we are. don't have anything I'd like to say. Do you? I guess I'm grateful for your being here. That's true. Comfortable, comforting. And I'm very aware of an absence of sickness. It's very the good side. One of the good sides of being sick is it really does strengthen one's compassion, doesn't it? With this thing going on in my low back and my hip, I can't walk very far. Yeah, I can walk a mile, but I never noticed before how many people in the world are limping. Often a lot. Like there's these really painful limps that people are struggling with. Who knew? Who knew? I just didn't notice them. And then that dive I had on Saturday morning into, well, it's persisted a little bit, the clawing at consciousness of depression. Man, there's a lot of us that go through the world with depression. Amazing. Amazing that we keep going. And how wonderful to have a practice that can help us have some perspective. So there, I said something. Push the right button, it speaks.
Good morning, it's Denise.
Hi, Denise.
Hello. You were just speaking of limping, and yesterday we were at the grocery store, and there was an older woman who was pushing the cart, and she was walking like, I'm not exaggerating, probably each step was only 2 or 3 centimeters, like an inch at a time through the store.
Yeah.
Um, and we got behind her for a little while, and I was reminded of some advice I heard somewhere, I don't even remember where, that when you're stuck, behind someone like that, uh, to walk like them, like not in a weird, like, so that they notice sort of a way, but to actually feel what it would feel like to only be able to take 2 centimeters of a step at a time, or to have that hitch in your hip, or whatever it is. And it's just a really great exercise in empathy.
Mm-hmm.
And immediately I was just like, so like, that woman must be so frustrated all the time. She used to be able to walk just fine, and now she can only go 2 centimeters at a time. Probably takes her a whole hour to just like walk through the grocery store. I don't know. Anyway, just something to a fun exercise if
Mm-hmm.
you're ever in that situation.
Yeah. Another grocery store analogy. Have you ever been in the line with the person who has 50 coupons? And then you notice people, maybe yourself, becoming impatient with them. How about living a life in which coupons are really important? It's a different life.
Well, perhaps the woman in the grocery line who could only take a small step at a time, if she was quite elderly, perhaps in her mm, aging wisdom, um, she fully accepted what it was that where she was, um,
Could be.
and that that was part of her own simplification process. I'm reading a book right now by a famous Jungian, Helen Luke, and it's called Old Age, and it's a beautiful meditation on simplicity, and she does it through the vehicle of the great myths, the Odyssey, Odysseus and King Lear, the Tempest, and her own experience, and it is really a wonderful thing, and it's always leading toward the simplicity, especially of older age,
Hmm.
and how I think I recommend it highly. And how I just think of this woman that Denise just talked about, that it feels to me anyway, intuitively, like she was really in her wisdom, saying, "This is uh, at my advanced age. This is what my simplistic, if you will, life looks like." So, compassion. Thank you.
Thank you, Penelope.
Hi, it's Joy. Hi.
Hello, Joy.
I just wanted to comment on that. Recently, we sold our place and then moved into another place, which was really hard. It took 3 months, and we live in a much smaller, simpler apartment because we saw when my husband's sister died how horrible it was for her elderly husband to deal with their big house. So we kind of did it in advance. But I found interesting things rising up in me, and one of them was that it was a cultural and class kind of a problem where I thought, oh, my friends are going to feel that I'm a lesser person because now I only have one bathroom and I don't have in-suite laundry and all of these preferences that people feel they're entitled to in this kind of well-off, privileged culture. So I've been kind of observing that in my just based on our conversation yesterday, the preferences that we have around housing are really incredible. But I deliberately chose, for practical reasons, not to have any of those things that we feel we deserve, because it's going to be so much easier to be elderly in a simple place. Anyway, so I'm just so conscious lately of how saturated I am with the conditions of the expectations of what's expected of people like us in our culture.
Right.
Anyway, I guess that's all I need to say about that. But,
thank you, Joy.
Yeah.
And Penelope, what was the name of the book?
Old Age. It's very simple, since she's going for simplicity. And it's Helen Luke, Luke. And she's gone now, but she's a British woman who became interested in the Jungian depth psychology world and practiced for a long time until she established a farm, I think somewhere in the Middle West, called Apple Tree Farm, I believe.
Huh.
And it's a wonderful reading. And it really has propelled me into the whole idea of simplicity and joy. I'm doing the same thing. I'm going through a separation and divorce at 74, right?
Oh, wow.
and moving. And what does that mean? And so coming off of Helen Luke's book, I am radically simplifying. So if you get an image of your head, not so much of that's out the window, that's out the window, that goes to Goodwill, that goes to whatever, recycling. It's really thoughtfully and mindfully looking at what is it that I need to schlep with me. And you're right about the contemplation of our choices in housing. It's overwhelming. And so I'm finding guidance with the whole notion of simplicity, which is so countercultural completely. And
right.
And yet aging is countercultural, right? In the US.
Uh-huh.
We're the only country in the world where death is an option. Think about that. So we're all getting there.
Thank you, Penelope.
Thank you.
Thank you. The idea that simplicity is a beneficial choice is really helpful to me because I just felt like we were stripping ourselves of so much, like all of our ski equipment, backpacking equipment, all this stuff didn't fit. Like the whole past didn't fit into our new place. So the past vanished, and also all of this status, that you have in certain kinds of, because you have a certain kind of home, you have a status, and I fooled myself about how that didn't mean much to me, but it does come up when a lot of people around me live in Victoria, in fantastic houses and condos, but I've chosen something different. So I can take the moral high ground now and say, oh, I'm simplifying, and that's good.
Right. Identities, isn't it remarkable how we create these structures, these fantasies?
Oh, I feel so saturated in conditioning. Like every word that we use,
Mm-hmm.
uh, it just comes from. I began to feel that I had no independent reality at all.
Mm.
It was just a construct from the culture that saturates every second of our lives.
Mm.
Maybe that's a bit negative. I don't know.
Or maybe a fruit of meditation showing just how profound the conditioning is.
Maybe it's just incredible. Um, like how we talk. You
Mm-hmm.
know, the words that we use, even a word like entitlement or spirituality, it's risen up in our culture, and now it's what I'm thinking about.
Yeah. Mm.
I think there are also, I was in geriatrics for years. That was my specialty. And I think um, there's there are tasks of aging that we all really are very wise to begin to look at any age. I started looking at it in my 40s. What are the tasks of aging, our own aging? And of course, it changes as culture is changing so rapidly. But there are certain things that I've seen people on the deathbed who didn't come to terms with some things in their lives, whether it was a relationship or, a loss, an unmourned loss. There are so many things. And uh, to come at least maybe to some acceptance of those things, they may never be resolved, but that's very critical for a more peaceful death, at least in a Western culture mindset. And it's, um, I think it's as important as the tasks that we all go through when we're teenagers or early 20s or raising families, whatever it is that we're doing, our spiritual path. But somehow it's conveniently kind of skipped over in our culture. And so what is it in our own lives that a life review, if you will, but boldly, not skipping over lightly saying, oh, well, yeah, that was then, but boldly, frankly, almost ruthlessly looking at our lives to bring it to full circle, which is a wonderful image for me. And it's not going to happen on a weekend, or, all right, I'll take next month to do this, right? It takes time. I mean, I've been at it for 30 years and just now getting to a point of coming to some understanding anyway of what these things were in my life. So just a thought.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I found a wonderful course. I do participate in a Quaker community, and there's a journal called Friends Journal, and this man had written an 8-week course on how to write a spiritual autobiography, so that you examine your life through the lens of how. I mean, Quakers are very spiritual, so that was the focus, but it's such a fascinating course, and I had this wonderful idea to offer it somehow to people where they would examine their lives like at different stages and say, how did they relate to their spiritual being in all kinds of different ways. It's just wonderful. So I'm looking forward to that project, which kind of also relates to, I've been doing this exploration with a friend of going to different religions like the mosque and the synagogue. And I've learned so much about the human experience through that exploration. So I just thought I'd mention I'm really excited by these projects and ideas that I'm learning about the world around me, even now.
Thanks, Joyce.
Yeah.
Well, anything cooking with someone you'd like to share before we close? I guess I have one more piece I'd like to share, if I can. That word. A few weeks ago, I was reading a news article that was about the death of some public figure who was 81. And somehow or another, something shifted. And, 81's a ripe old age. But then somehow or another, it came together that I'm turning 75 at Christmas. And then I did the math, and it was, holy shit. That's only 6 years. That's nothing. And then I remembered Jennifer, my wife, and my daughter Tara created an almost surprise birthday for my 70th birthday, which was yesterday. I mean, really. And somehow or another, some piece of denial just fell away. It's like, wow. Then I started some reflections. Well, what is it I want and need to do? I mean, I could go today, of course, and I could go 10 years from now or longer, even possibly. But the odds are it's not so far off. And one of the things that is now afoot at PIMC is we're hiring a consultant to work with us on creating a strategic plan over the next 2 or 3 years of moving Robert into teaching, but not running the place. So a movement toward an executive director somehow. And I've met twice now, or once significantly with this marvelous consultant, a guy called Eric Vines, who does this kind of thing. That's his work. And he pointed out that we have a particular challenge at PIMC in that we have what he framed was such a relief. He understood very quickly what I was up against and we were up against. He said, you have a celebrity nonprofit with a person who has, the founder is well known and charismatic and so on. And then there are other very competent teachers and people who devote life energy to it. But there's this issue of how does an organization survive the departure, death of its charismatic founder? And so we have some work to do, and he's going to meet with the board, and we're going to engage the community. But as I'm talking about this, I feel sad. It's really true that my arc is flattening out. I'm coming into old age and into relinquishment, and I really want to do it skillfully, and I really want to leave PIMC in a good place rather than have it just plop, right, my sudden absence. So it's related to downsizing, and it's related to being realistic about the fact that it's like 75 is not particularly young. I am slowly. You hear me whine about it a little bit, but this back thing. I'm here. Can I say this out loud? I'm not going to go backpacking again. There's a place up in Goat Rocks Wilderness where the last time I went there was I don't know, 7 years ago. I went and did a 4-day retreat. There's an incredible campsite. If you're ever going that way, ask me, and it's about 1,000 or 2,000 feet above Goat Lake, and you can see 1,000,000 miles. And there's just a few little trees and a creek. It's the perfect place for a meditation retreat. But it's a hard climb, and I can't do that with a pack. I couldn't do it without a pack. And there's a lot of things like that. So acknowledging, oh yeah, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. There's so much I can do. Still, I have so much freedom. But it's I'm going to look into your book, the book you're recommending, Penelope.
Well, I think, Robert, you're doing what you're doing with grace, and the story of Odysseus is told at the end in Helen Luke's book. I don't want to ruin things, but he decides, oh, I'm good for one last. He's quite older, I guess. I'm good for one last adventure. I'm going to go out and conquer the world, but it doesn't quite turn out that way for the man, and he realizes, well, wait a minute, I can't do this anymore, but I realized, okay, I want to go back to Penelope, who was his wife, the weaver, and live as what I would call personally a wisdom elder. And I feel like that's what you're doing, Robert. You're doing this with grace. I mean, it's not, yeah, let's go for it. I'm all in. It's a very gracious acknowledgement. But that's the point of aging, is that releasing these things with grace, it takes tremendous, what Robert, or Hillman, what's his first name, would, call
James
character. Hillman. Yeah, character. Mm-hmm. So I bow to you for that.
Robert, I had the good fortune in my life to two very important people to me, help shepherd them into their declining physical abilities, and both of them struggled to keep doing what they'd always been doing and not give up the car keys and to keep driving. And what was I honor you for what you have accomplished, and also for the difficulty in relinquishing those things that you've always been able to do or have always been a part of your life. I'm reminded of that parable that you talk about frequently, of being chased by the tiger over a cliff and grabbing a vine, and there's this luscious strawberry in front of you. What I was able to get across to these people that were very important to me, was I had this phrase: you don't want to end up being a head in the bed. Take care of yourselves and enjoy what abilities you have as long as you can. The past is the past, and we mourn it. And yet there's this luscious strawberry. And as you were describing the situation with PIMC, this is faced by so many organizations, theaters with these luminous artistic directors, or churches with this profoundly important minister or pastor who's been there for 20 years. And they have to go through a transition as this very important person leaves. And you're in this incredible position of looking at what you've accomplished. You have really achieved something here, and that's really fabulous. And that's something that you can take and enjoy along with that precious strawberry that's in front of you. So,
thanks, David. All right, friends, I need to go. Shall we go out on our traditional blessing? May all beings receive all blessings. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Bhavatu sabe mangalam. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Hang on here. Live long and prosper ahead.
enjoy all the strawberries in your day.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for joining in, everybody.
Enjoy the strawberries.
Amen. All right.